their two top fraggers from this game, was that, for me at least, it was the not as commonly known names when it comes to someone like Summer, for example, who was at PNC, obviously representing China. So it's nice to see the entirety of the team here step up when, again, there were some naysayers, myself included.
Tide was he had the best KD in the team, though, during the last phase here. So, I mean, that was kind of expected. But Summer, as you're saying, not really that expected that he would do that good in the first game here.
I mean, the reality is I don't want to over-gush on them, right? I mean, they had the benefit of, say, Gex driving into them with 3 people and sort of handing over the kills. Yeah. There were situations that they did benefit from, so I want to see them use the confidence boost, go into game 2, and make it happen again. But that, for me, is the big takeaway here, Kalaris, is I don't want to see teams overly switch it up right now. Sure. That's a temptation, but on a best of 6, you should be starting the same way you finish. You should have a set strategy, you should play hard, and you could focus on the win, not play safe, not sort of gauge the risks later.
Good to see Vendetta all smiles after that first game there. So got to be riding high off that kind of performance. And that's the kind of start that could carry you through this group stage quite easily.
Honestly, if you get a momentum starter like this, they be able to continue to bid through these games, they're going to be easily in top 8. Easily. But obviously to the other teams here, or one of the favorite teams, phase, being able to start like this, getting a clutch situation where you win a 2 versus 4, that's also going to be a kickstarter for them.
I mean, go ahead.
You're also sending a message to the teams that are not playing, that will be playing tomorrow as well, because you'll be facing them later on. And right now, you're making a statement saying, hey, you should be afraid of us. We're really good at this.
Yeah, I mean, FaZe comes out on top. They're sort of the favorites to win this thing. They definitely scored with the fact that their first rotation from Milta every time is to sort of that lumber position when it's that circle. It worked out for them. It stayed there till the bitter end. So they did get a good start and some great kills to kick it off. The question is, when we see that super shift, when we go to North Georgia Pole on the next circle, can they adapt at the same context with teams that are in sort of new spots they're not used to?
Did you just call a circle?
I did.
I like that.
No.
Oh, George, new ending.
Well, I mean, honestly, like that's what I want to see, a different circle on every single one of these 6 games, right? I want to see every team tested to the umpteenth degree because that's what I want to know. Who is the best? Who goes to Oakland, can adapt, thrive, and destroy anybody who stands against them?
All right, well, we're almost ready to get into the proceedings of game number 2, of course, here, as we have had plenty of exciting action here from our first game. Time to get to game number 2 here for PGC Group 1.
Thank you so much, and here we go. We're getting ready for game number 2. I gotta say, I'm with the analyst. I want to see the evil playing paths. I want to see the evil circles. I want to see everybody just rise to the occasion. I want to see these guys challenged.
Millie circle.
Yes.
I want to see a Millie circle. Speaking of Millie, we've just seen another $1 million are being contributed to the prize pool. That's a total of $3 million. First place walking home with one of that minimum. Like, you can't stress if just advancing and going through this double elimination stage was enough to get to the very top. To think how much of a life-changing sum of money is on the line is insanity. The pressure is madness.
And that's due to players. That's due to the viewers. You guys coming in, picking up those awesome-looking skins, contributing in, supporting your teams on the pick'ems. This is just the start. That's only been 2 days, too. So just think of where we could go from here.
Well, before this, 4 teams were guaranteed above 100 grand by the end of all this is all said and done. With the prize pool contributions, that could certainly jump up to add another one to it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the money all aside, this is all about pride. And I think more importantly, this is the first time in PUBG Esports where we can finally truly say who is the best in the world. We've not necessarily been able to do it in the past because of third person, first person,
all that stuff,
rule sets and everything else. But now we've streamlined this. Now we've had the super brought in. We've had the leagues. We can truly begin to see our star legendary players, and we can truly begin to see, or at least who definitely will see, who is the best of the best and the best in the world.
100%. That's what I'm buckled up for. I want to see these guys just continue to grow, because I think that that's going to be a big part of this. A lot of these guys are just going to pull together, continue to make that climb up, and just improve. Sometimes you just have these players that manage to just clutch up and figure out a way to play the game just a little bit differently than they did, and I love to see that.
Well, we can see the playing path. I know you guys at home can't. I will say this, it's not evil, it's not cruel. It does start off just below Prim and will be ending around Kaneshki. So it's an open playing field, and I think if you want to be a bit more brazen, you could say teams don't have to be so southernly heavy. If there are teams that want to kind of play off the back of Yasnai, Ghost Gaming, for example, they won't have much of a long drop this time. They can actually go to home turf.
So just as a heads up, why it's taking us a second to get into lobby, there is an issue with one of the T1 players' computers. They're wanting to make sure to go back, look that over, make sure everything's good. We're over at the start of this, so we want to make sure every player has everything set moving into it. So it should just be a second or two longer while we get that set up. I mean, one of the things I want to take away from that is a couple of these teams that we expected to do quite well, especially in this group, did go down kind of early. Desk was talking about it a second ago. I mean, what was kind of your standout inside that game that kind of shocked you that you were just completely unexpected by?
I'm going to be honest, and there are obviously memes aside and NA and not advancing and all that lot. I was surprised that Tempo did go down so early. And I honestly worry about how much of a detriment that'll be to the mindset of this roster. Having heard how things are amongst the roster and how they are to one another, yes, they're a formidable team when it comes to the MPL. But, and this is absolutely no disrespect to North American players, the MPL definitely has its top 4, top 5 teams, and then there is a substantial drop-off between level of skill.
Well, that's kind of universal in every league.
Yeah. But again, I'm trying not to be... I don't want to be disrespectful, because any player in any league is still a professional player, and they are still playing at a damn sight better than your average player in any caster, and so on and so forth. But when you come to these lobbies, you've got your first, your second, your third, your fourth... Every single team is just legend in its own right from its respectable region.
I mean, the easiest way to look at it is imagine you're the best in your region, and now you have to go up against every other best in their region, and it just makes one small mistake just blows up back in your face. And you talk about surprised that Tempo Storm went down. One of the things that surprised me was a much more aggressive Ghost from the MPL, making that push back over towards FaZe. We often see FaZe get control over areas and just not let anybody encroach in there. That was kind of surprising for me.
You will have known, I mean, there's two things to that story, right? They got a knock on FaZe, so you know that's FaZe, and you think, oh, well, do I really want to be pushing them? Do I really want to be going after them? There is that question that could be answered, but more importantly for me, they didn't get overly aggressive. They didn't get bloodthirsty, because there's time and time again a team goes, oh, I've got a knock, quick, let's dive in and get the rest of them. And then all of a sudden they get battered. Fair play, they got battered by the incredible, by the way, the incredible overpeak from Mexi was just going for the repeak, and then the overpeak on the second one was fantastic. So good job. Okay, they didn't last much longer, but still, to take the scalps of all of Ghost Gaming, they get the revenge, they get the kill points, they get the placement points as well. But Ghost, yeah, very disciplined. Whoever's on the IGL there is keeping him in line and keeping him in check.
What got me was my team to kind of watch as far as in the OGN family has been Force. I thought Force was going to be like the big factor. They were one of my teams that I'm just going to be keeping an eye on tomorrow that I feel is just going to be so ridiculously strong. And out of nowhere, Ace just comes through. We talked about that they had a gauntlet to play through to get to this stage, and we often see that kind of does power up teams to a certain degree. Like whenever you have to go through and you have to play like one of these last-minute gauntlets to get your spot, we see the fact that there's so much like knowledge gained in that little bit of a run, and I felt like it very much carried over into this first game. We were seeing them make some very aggressive moves that paid off for them.
I was surprised to see the open run by G2. We didn't see the full run, so I can't completely slander them altogether, but I didn't see any smokes, that's for sure. I didn't see the smoke trails. I didn't see... It was an interesting angle, because if you would have hit from the side of it, you can force them back off the top of the roof of the garage. Yes, you can see through the doors, but it means that to come forward onto the open garage roof, they have to expose themselves rather than having the windows to play with. So to hit them from the angle, yes, you are going for the defilade of the side of the garage, but from the opposing side, it might be flat, but they are overexposed, and you can maybe get a sniper, just ping somewhere at the back to give you the distance you need.
They also did jump into the window and peek out the side of the window. That was a very unexpected angle. I gotta say, a very good play. Those are the types of things I love to see, those little bitty innovations, making that risk, because there's a lot of risk in stepping out that window. You have to have faith. I'm gonna hit every single person that I see, otherwise I'm dead. And they got it.
Vendetta doing the Aussies proud. Same goes for VC at the top. Fantastic work from them for their respective region. Good points in the bag, but it's only one game. However, Matrim, we only have 6 in this lobby, and you have to finish in the top 8 if you want to advance, otherwise you're going to elimination.
FaZe didn't walk away with a win, but I feel like they are feeling pretty good about that game. A lot of strong plays coming through there. Made it into the late game. I mean, it was, again, in their backyard, but Gen G, not the best of starts, losing PO really early in that game.
Yeah, it's going to hurt them, and I think it wasn't the greatest of rotations from them. They were split 4 men across one wide open area, and they were picked apart one by one. But now they get a second crack at the whip. I can see the plane is in the air, the bird is in the sky. Game number 2 match is underway.
Here we go. We're taking a look at Vendetta. These guys absolutely killed it in that last game, but it is time to get up and in the air for game number 2. Naturally going back over towards Aaron Gell. Looks like the plane path we were talking about a second ago. Nothing crazy moving into this. It's just diagonal cutting right across the map. And unless you want to go to like Zarky, pretty much everything is on the table that you could want.
Potential for some slight readjustments, but more importantly, it will give teams more towards that northeast side. Yasnaya been a special one. A bit more of looting capabilities and a bit more time on the ground. Gen G already out of the plane. Same goes for Envy.
One thing I did want to note, the Chinky is going to be very contested tomorrow. It's one of those zones that almost all those teams like to go for. Here, we're actually seeing Rickanids come in, and they're just claiming it almost for free because nobody else is making the play around that. They all have their own different drop zones that they want to go to.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about tomorrow because it's going to be a complete mess. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of teams that are just going to be so ignorant to one another and just say, you know what, this is our area, so do one. It's, a doozy.
That is a doozy right there coming down. And he's by himself. So that means that somebody's going to have to make a run over to go for the res. I believe it's Pokemolodoy. It looks like he's going to have to make the push back over there towards it. Yep, he's got himself a buggy, but that's going to cut into both of their loot, and that's going to slow down this team.
Looting time will be slowed down, but it's a res nevertheless. So please don't run him over. Just don't.
I know. I saw it catch the air. I was like, no,
Yeah,
please.
don't do it. No one will make an advance on that. There's no point, to be fair. But people will understand that he's down circle.
I love how he crawled to the door. He was like, I can't even get inside of it. Can't open the door when you're downstage, but just stare at it. Be like, I just want to be in there. They're safe.
To be fair, if your legs were broken, Matchroom, you also wouldn't be able to open the door.
This is true. Well, I don't know. I would try my hardest to reach up. If there are people with guns around, I just broken both of my legs, I would not.
Grabbing the door handle with your teeth,
Yeah.
please let me in.
My hands still work.
Somebody save me. Well, Pokemolodoy at least gets him back on his feet, so Navi can continue. Whether or not Armory Gaming think, you know what, we got a bit more time on these boys. Maybe we can camp them. Circle does shift towards the north. That's a hell of a lot of water in play, about 35%. Severny, could this be a good spot for one team? I'm already seeing one maybe just magnetizing towards it, potentially even for Jex as well. So 2 teams are looking and kicking around that. We'll see if there is any major advancement. Good little split, by the way. I can see it on the map from McCoy. He's away from the rest of the team in Yasnaya up on the hillsides, and that gives his team a foothold for the next rotation should the circle be favorable more towards the north.
It's an interesting position. We know the fact that this is where Ace likes to play at, over towards school. Very comfortable inside of this position. Na'Vi is still fairly separated out right now, trying to get a little bit more information, and I think they still have a little bit of time, but they were one of the early droppers inside of this. I would say they dropped a little bit before the halfway point on whenever the plane path came through. With the circle being so far north, I mean, it really favored these teams that opted into a much later drop strategy. Desk was talking about Envy. They just wanted to drop right off the go, and they ended up back down over from Morris. And I think that they have the longest to go out of everything. And FaZe is pretty close to the circle by comparison, but kind of quiet to get everything going. I feel like big northern rotations back up along those coastlines in that Severny area around shooting range, Stolber, those hills and those buildings and warehouses around that, that could be early gets for a lot of these teams, making those early rotations. And that's why Na'Vi having that down very early is very detrimental.
You can see the total rankings on the left-hand side. Keep an eye on those two, the teams that are from 10th position down to 16th. That's generally everyone, 3 points and below. 3 teams at the bottom with 1 point each. Okay, one game can change everything. Yes, I agree with that. You can go and just pick up a win and 12, 15 kills and have a 25-point game. That's absolutely true. But for any of those teams that are down between, what, 12th and 16th place, another appalling placement, and potentially you could be out of the running for first in this group completely just after 2 games. There's only 6 if you want to make it out of groups.
So we saw a very aggressive position coming out early from Duckman's last game. Did not go in their favor. Now you can see Armory Gaming running a lot closer together. I'm curious as to make their approach back towards the circle, if they're going to continue to clump or if they're going to go for that more split rotation that we see coming out from Armory Gaming. Looks like they're all going to crash back over here together. See, naturally, Vin back in this position, feeling pretty comfortable. Not a lot of contention coming on. I don't think that FaZe is going to make an approach through here. Nobody back down towards military base. So just looting to their heart's content before they start their rotation.
I never like to suggest it, but with Armory Gaming, Duckmans is such a standout performer. I don't want to say one player carries that entire team, but I think it's fair to say him going down like that, look at what it's done to the scoreboard. Like, he is kind of the heart and soul of that roster. Yes, you go out, you live as a team, you die as a team. I get that, and I'm okay with that. But still, honestly, it's kind of bad.
I feel like he's a leverage point for the team.
Yeah.
It's not like everything hinges on him, but a lot of their play style does depend on him having that
They might rely on him
outside
too
cover.
much. That's the problem.
That is true.
And him going down initially, if this happens again, you've got to look to the rest of the team switching things up on a pinhead, because they could be in trouble.
So you guys can see how the rotations are coming in. A little bit later rotations for a couple of these teams. Really, the guys over in Milton, no rush at all as all three teams kind of posted up. Gex is making an approach next to Tempo Storm. A couple of shots are going to connect over with Leo. You can see Sophia's up towards the top of the hill. Spray's going to come out from Zampa, not going to connect as everybody does crest over the top of it.
Tempo Storm position will at least be known now to teams that are going to be lingering around them.
Do you think this is a little bit of damage control from Tempo Storm trying to go for early picks? Because they're just right along this line. They knew that people would rotate along this point, maybe seeing if they can get an extra kill or two due to going out so early in that last game.
I think they're getting ahead of the game, if I'm honest. They're in a good position for now for this circle, regardless of where it goes. They will be in the next one. And if they can keep not only the damage control, but if they can keep map control, they can let teams go up there. There are a few areas in the north here, particularly, that are not only big transitional paths, but are very wide open spaces. And regardless if someone tries to make a pull up on them, if someone tries to go by, like for instance, you just cop for it there, one player in the open, you can pick up points very, very easily. And more importantly, you can spread your wings. You can spread your team here and not actually be spread too thin.
Mm-hmm. We also see the gauntlet come into effect at a certain point. These teams that are positioned out only get about half damage on a player. As they continue their push in, another team will get that other half of it. Tempo Storm now deciding to crash back over around Crossroad location towards the northern part of the river. That's a big gamble that's coming in with a lot of these teams. Most teams are assuming that that river that kind of marks right through the center of this circle, well, I guess down towards the south of the circle. A lot of these times are going to post up. BC going for a couple of shots back over towards Ace as they make their rotation there.
You mentioned the gun early. I mean, you saw what effect that's had on them. They were an SLR player and they were a Kar 98, both iron sighting. You know you're clutching at straws when you iron sight a Kar 98 at distance.
This is an interesting push coming out from Ace. They have stopped one player back behind, providing a little bit of cover back over towards VC. But this is kind of an open section coming through. Edge is going to go ahead and take down Brexco. That's G2 losing a member fairly early. Remember, these guys were pretty close based off of their looting, and then almost just rotated right on top of each other, making their way inside the circle.
And one of G2's biggest failures is that they will be picked apart individually. They like to go on very wide splits and very wide rotations. They're doing the same now. Nelos is completely away from the rest of the pack. Same with Yanis. Chris is on his own. He'll have to fight this one because Vendetta can still see him. Should G2 be able to consolidate themselves, it'll be fantastic because they can keep going. But one of their bigger failures is that they do like to be spread apart. And they do get punished for it.
DJ Boy taking a couple of shots back over towards Hasbo, going back over there, and this, oh, just running away. Well, luckily it's running back over towards a teammate, so at least maybe he can get Ubered and he can pick back up. But DJ Boy having to leave his position, smokes are coming down. Teammate jumps in the vehicle to provide a little bit more support and get into a safer spot.
Can we appreciate how much time and effort went into not only keeping that car alive, each player just instantly puts the smoke down. Don't worry, we'll keep the tires alive. And he just jumps in it and packs it up. But
well, that's kind of one of the dangerous spots about whenever you play gas station is if you lose your vehicles, there's not a lot of cover around that spot. You're pretty dead.
You're either going uphill or downhill. Both of those ways are completely open.
Yeah. Oh no, and there's the free fall down to a knock inside that poor doozy. You can see him back down there in the bottom right. Go ahead and make his way through. He's still alive. He's still safe. So everything's okay.
He's a freak of a player. He's one that's probably going to do wonders for Na'Vi. Like, I think he's the only player between him and...
Oh, still so much water inside this circle. There's not going to be a lot of real estate as it looks like infantry's making the push back over towards Gen G. Got a couple up. We got one up towards the top of it. Nestor's trying to hold his back line. Lin walks up, takes some shots at the motorcycle. That's going to give away his position. Now Lin knows how to play this. Nice push off to the side of it. That's going to get one down. Esther looking back off to one side. One down now on the other side of this, and it's just an exchange firefight trying to fight through that doorway.
Infantry and Gen G. Gen G are actually committing to this one. Whether they overcommit could be a dangerous sign. Longska's inside as well. That grenade's going to be cooked, pin out. Into, oh no! Just misses it. Otherwise, that could have been big. It could have been huge, in fact. Taman Will at least get a bit of damage off Bolang. He has to go for the res here if they want to try and keep players alive. Pio and Taemin, the last two standing. This is really bad from Gen G. There was a poor game last time round. 2 back-to-back would not be good, Matrim.
So you can see Longster holding the top. Looks like he jumped into a little bit more of aggressive position. The res does come through. That time it does bounce through the window. Gonna connect Bullion, gonna get him down. So with this Longster still trying to hold the top of it, that reposition.
Oh my lord.
Gotta get the damage, but not get the knock. So now we can see that Pio is slowly creeping up back behind this, finding the angle. A lot of stress coming back over towards Infantry Gaming. Pio looks like he has an angle towards one of the windows, but not gonna get the knock, as you can see, going for the reposition for the res. Steeman also gonna do the same, just narrowly making it there in time.
He has to go for this. Surely. Well, he's gone for the res, which is good, but they're allowed upstairs to get their teammates back on their feet. Yes, Gen D will be able to do the same, but now Xiaoyang, he actually gets the res, and now he goes aggressive. This is good.
Oh, is he gonna see him? Not gonna connect with the shot, so it's a little bit of a peak battle. Grenades could be huge. Bounces it back between those bars, not gonna get the damage off onto it, so now it feels like everybody is just contained off the side. Pio shows up, goes ahead and flushes out Longsker, still looking back over. Another grenade's gonna bounce around the outside of those bars. It's so hard to squeeze him right through there, so now Pio has to be super cautious on this approach, and it is just utility being wasted everywhere. This could be very bad for Gen G.
Pio being disconnected from the rest of the pack has actually paid dividends here. It's done them well, so he'll molly the corner to stop anyone sitting on the bars.
But this really kind of gives Infantry more time to regroup, get that meds back up, find a little bit more space, because there's not follow-through grenades that are coming through. Esther's still holding this lower position, just kind of firing in on the smokes. There's a lot of different points that you can see him separate out from, and the Molotov finally getting a little bit of damage there, but that's going to be enough. Pio does get down off of that.
They're burning. They're burning alive.
There's just so much fire everywhere. That's going to be Infantry going down and out first.
So Pio missed 2 grenades through the windows, and I think all players, I'm pretty sure this is like a 9,000 IQ play. All the players mollied the entire top floor and give Infantry nowhere to move. They just cooked them alive.
Every single window, you could see that it was just Molotov after Molotov after Molotov coming through, and that was a good bit of control. Once they realized they had the bottom floor, just take it.
That's but in order to do that, you have to coordinate the mollies to throw them at the same time, so they've got nowhere to move. If they've literally coordinated molly throwing to burn the entire top floor,
we've never seen that. That feels
play.
Like that is something brand new. That's so much coordination coming in. Duckman's taking a couple of shots back over towards Na'Vi. He is playing a little bit separated out away from his team. They're back down inside the buildings off to the southwest. They've got some control points they can play from, so let's see how this new circle pops over, and it's going back over towards FaZe. We still have a ton of water in this, and a little bit of Stolberg Hillside posted up. This is going to be a messy rotation.
With one of these scenarios now, given where the land is because they're on the coastline, you can pretty much predict where this circle should be going, at least for these teams. And unfortunately, there is nothing to play. There is so little right now. It will pull more central. I think it'll pull central.
At this
With
point,
a little strut there's a chance that it maybe goes to the left, but everyone now just has to run the gauntlet. There'll be a lot of attacks on the beach. Envy's already there, and that's because you can hit the slope of it and maybe hide him amongst the water. Severny is a dead zone. Once that's gone, you've got to come out and over the hills. Alpaca's just finding people on the way.
It's just a mess. Everybody's running through, going for the shots. T1 gets dropped off of that rotation, just leaning out of it. Look, there's just bodies everywhere. Vehicles flipped over. Still shots coming in from FaZe in the distance. And Helen's looking back towards this like, I don't think I want to go up that direction, guys. I'll just go ahead and let Ace have that.
Well, we asked for some weird and wonderful circles, and we got it. This is Hell in a Cell right now. FaZe Clan can sit happy. Time and time before, in the old generations of like Phase 1, even before that, the year previous, this gas station for them and the surrounding areas, the coastal road was a very strong point. They go for the old rotation up past Stalborough and then coming around this one. The issue is for FaZe Clan, should a circle be rather unfavorable from this position now, going uphill will be extremely difficult.
Look at the position from Gen G. They can catch a lot of people as they make their rotation through. They just had to come back over towards the east. That's forcing Na'Vi back along this line. Like he's taking a little bit of damage there, but they've got that dip that they can play down from. They've made it through the first phase of the gauntlet, but there's still more teams to follow. Envy, we can see that Na'Vi is going to have to be very, very cautious as they make that approach back over next to Envy, and there's still the remnants of T1 ahead of them, so they have to be very cautious on where they stop at.
Pio is disconnected, so he needs to make sure that if he has to get this kill, really. I mean, look at the aggression here.
That's just Pio
Oh
things
my god,
right
if
there.
he gets this.
Well, so much damage coming out. Got to be cautious off of that one. That is some confidence coming out from Pio. He does not even care off of that. He was just standing out in the open, taking the shots back that direction. So smoke's coming out on both sides. See, Ambi's taking a lot of damage coming out. Tempo Storm as well. They're fighting across this hillside, but Gex is also looking on the back side of it. Pat Cups is trying to look along the side of this, but he's also right up next to Tempo Storm. Grenade's going to come out, trying to go around the peak of this. And Luke's going to come back on the other side of this, try to go for the res. A little bit more space, but it's still Pat Caps just jumping from smoke to smoke, trying to use the crates for cover. Any box that he can find, but it's going to be Gex that's taking the shots off the side of him. That's going to eliminate Envy.
North America just currently battering one another. Miluk with the Uzi at least can get Sharp shot back on his feet. How much more he can do. If he can pick up Zampa, it would be huge. But the problem is he has to go out into the open. There are teams lingering and looking across from that side. Pio does get the knock-ons to Bestelotch, the player that was up against the water. That's a damn good shot to challenge someone like Bestelotch, who is a very aggressive individual. Circle comes the way that we kind of expected to. The most land will fit in this one. And that's why all the teams are going to be posting up here. G2, Vendetta, Red Canids, Ghost Gaming, Armory, everyone's almost inside this. The mess is going to come from the side of Severny. Na'Vi, Genji, Gex, Tempo, Storm, VC, they all have to make their way in, and we've got 3 teams that are basically playing bodyguard on the western side.
One thing I want to mention is the number of teams that are presently inside the circle are a lot of the same teams we saw get in those last circles.
Correct.
FaZe, Vendetta, Ghost Gaming, Armory Gaming, they're not one of them that made it that far in, but we can see Red Canids is off to the one side of it. So G2 is also making their approach, so we're starting to see repeat people that know how to play these circles, figuring out how to come back in with a lot of people up and alive. Duckman's looking back over towards Ghost. Ghost making the push down. Looks like they've already got Skeet down. Duckman's back off on that side angle for it, and it looks like everybody's hunting for him, but VC just down to the south of Ghost. This is kind of an interesting spot right over here next to Stalber. A lot of back and forth. Esther is right up inside the smoke, and it's right next to Na'Vi. Pokemalda is looking off the side, gonna go ahead and throw down a Molotov. Esther gets away from that.
Pio's killed 2 of them. I mean, I'd be scared if I were Na'Vi. This isn't like to let one player just loosen them like this. Pokemalda might unfortunately burn himself if he's not too careful. Very little life. That's for standing on top of him. Pio's here for the resuscitation, just trying to... Oh,
here's the drive up.
Go for what do you do?
Does get taken down, tries to get something out of it, but Gen G now up to 7 kills. Looking back over towards a doozy. He's kind of hiding out. Last member alive for Na'Vi. They only have 1 kill at this point. So he's got himself a little bit of a ridge to play from, but it is not inside the safe zone.
Absolutely no EU bias here. It really scares me, Matchroom, watching a team like Na'Vi being bullied. Quite literally bullied by Gen G. That's... You got to think they were down 2 players earlier on when they were going up against infantry. They got themselves back on their feet. They wiped out infantry, and now they're just moving on to the Russians. They are destroying them.
Got Ghost on the high ground and trying to abuse it. DJ Boy down, and yeah, and that's kind of the name of this lobby right now. Is everybody can abuse anyone at any given time. It's all about making sure you got to dictate the game. You got to force everybody to play around how you want to play. Damon just jumps down right on top of Gex, taking a couple of shots back over to him, but it's going to be a doozy that gets the shots and the down onto him. So Gen G is eliminated on. That's interesting.
I actually think Pio just got Car 98 off the back of the vehicle.
Yeah.
I saw it in the kill feed.
Doozy outlives them. He's got the moral victory, but now where do you go next?
Armory Gaming, 11th position. We're seeing some of the old teams, as you did mention, Matchroom, in the previous match, falling at the wayside here below top 10. Nadoozy just holding on for dear life on the beachhead, and it will be very soon lived because he has only got a very amount of the stim on and needs to turn face.
FaZe is looking back down towards T1 right now. They're going to hear the motorcycle in a second, but that might give him that extra little bit of space. And up, he's going to get dropped off by nice shots coming out from Sophia. So, no, never mind. I guess FaZe doesn't have to look that direction. They already got people supporting him from the other side.
Enters just chilling, waiting for Gex to make an advancement over the hill here because they do have to come forward given the position of the blue. But unfortunately, RJ is in the hillside, so they can get the angle also. But McCoy... He's kind of having a beautiful few little games so far. I'm seeing plenty of kills and frags come out the man. Does knock one of them on the back, so it kind of gives a bit of a stopgap here for Gex, who will be moving forward.
New circle pops, just moves a little bit more centralized. FaZe still has those buildings to play around. Ace is just huddled back down in this dip, trying to deny vision off of so many angles. It's like Gex is trying to make a little bit more of an aggressive push, but there's so many teams that can see back on this angle. You can see it's just tracers coming in from every angle right now. Leo's trying to get something out of this, but there's just hellfire and bullets on every angle for it, while Joy is just looking back up that hillside. Every time they peek down, it is so dangerous.
Just so you're aware of where teams are currently, Red Canadians are just holding down on the plateau towards the south side of the main houses. Vendetta are going to be lingering around them, though. G2 coming out of the forest to where we see FaZe usually rotate from on that eastern side. T1 is making an advancement outside of the gas station onto Entus. Gex falling by the wayside. RG also want to get involved in this one. The grenades could do some damage, and if it does, it'll ring the alarm bell, Matchroom, and they'll maybe just hope and pray that they're ready for the receiving end of it.
But that is going to distract away from what was going on with Ace. They were looking back down on that angle. Doesn't really matter. I was going to say maybe that might give Gex a chance to make the way down. But FaZe is still just taking those shots onto this. Everybody from T1 has to be cautious. Jeff, as he made that approach, had to make sure he was keeping an eye out for FaZe. FaZe is dictating so much of the movement inside of the circle based off of the sight lines that they have. Nobody is within 200 meters of them right now because anytime somebody tries to make the approach, somebody's got that angle on them.
I think the bigger problem is Red Canadians hiding. There's like a plateau on the main road, and they should have vehicles there, I would have thought as well, so no one dare go further afield, more centralized. Because if you do, they're going to kill you. It's as simple as that. Vendetta is right next to them, so like the main road is straight up a no-go zone. You have to play a plateau of a hillside here. Hopefully, Ghost Gaming can play a bit more reactive to the situation that they're in, because I'm seeing RJ surround them from multiple angles.
Everybody's loaded up inside of the UAZ. T1 has the angles off on one side.
No.
It is just dead body dropping out of this over and over. Jumps out, and it's going to be T1 holding this down. And that's going to be Ace, our winners from last round, getting aced themselves and are removed from the game.
At least they made it into top A and picked up some frags along the way. There are teams that have had worse runs than that, so it's not too bad. You get the old curse of winning one and going out in 16th.
So with this, you can see we're in the points positions right now. 7 teams alive, 20 still holding it down. Look at the control FaZe has over the circle. The only problem with it is they're so far towards the edge of it. If anything moves away from this position, it's going to be very difficult because now they have to cross those zones of demarcation that they themselves have set.
But this is why it's so important to get the knocks now with the
100%.
height advantage on top of the buildings that was provided. There's also what I would call a level 3 building up there when you can go into the high tower and look across. If they can get knocks on these positions, you remove them.
Ooh.
And with good reason, because now FaZe, it's time to move. You've been gifted a very good circle for a very good game. Now it's time to test them. What have they got left in the chamber? Teams will be lingering on that main road. And unless they go for a wide rotation, the safer option will be to take the forest side.
Yeah, this is a very interesting rotation point you have to go through. There is G2 that's along the hillside, as well as Vendetta. Red Canadians still holding down that 1 point. You can see the spread coming out now as Ghost is still controlling back down towards the southeast, and Rascal Jester's just kind of separated out around as well. There's only 3 teams that are kind of in the circle. I would technically 2, because Ghost is right on the edge of the circle and keep bouncing back and forth between it, but all the violence is going to be happening up towards the north as G2 has to figure out how they're going to move through this, and Vendetta is just waiting. This looks like a trap just being sprung at any given moment.
FaZe are going to go for that plateau that I've been talking about.
Just full send. You can see they hopped inside the vehicle. They're making the push over towards it, and a crate.
That knock's huge. Okay, it was stolen. Let's not talk about that. It was stolen regardless, but that's huge because that knocks Chris out from watching the back angle. FaZe can make something on this one and push in now. The problem was getting in there in the way of G2. There are 3 teams over here. This is going to be madness.
G2 is under a lot of pressure right now. Grenades are starting to come down. It's just drop after drop. As you can see, Red Canadians also joining in the fight. G2 just walked into a meat grinder as 3 different teams are just tearing them apart from so many different angles. Nellis is trying to figure out, okay, what do I get out of this? They've only got 1 kill. Trying to hunt down another. Goes for the spray back over towards it and cannot accomplish anything. They just get dropped out.
G2's gone. Vendetta, they're down but not out. They can get their bodies back on their feet if they need to. Uber has managed to pick up a crate. I mean, Christ, if he wasn't strong enough as it was, give him level 3 gear and watch him go. Let's see what other gun he's got once it eventually shows up on screen. He might not even go for it, just honestly keep the mini at this point because he's so damn good with it. Yes, he does indeed. M4 in the back pocket as well to take on the assault that will be waiting. And when I say waiting, I mean lying down. Nades cooked.
Went out, but the spray is very good. Gets a little bit of damage off. T1 pops out. They opted to go back down towards the south. But look at this. Shinobi just has the angle. He is the thorn in so many team sides right now. That's going to be a couple more kills coming out. But you can see FaZe just walks up and says, Red Canadians, this is our part of the circle. You just go away.
They've pushed all the teams that were here completely out. Yes, third party, fourth party was a real thing. But they've still stepped up at the right time and taken so many angles to cover so many different positions. They've essentially removed an obstacle completely from the wayside. I spoke about Ghost Gaming earlier on in the position of maybe getting overrun. They did lose one player during the time of what we've just seen in the past circle. Vendetta, they lost one player also, but they are squeezed up against the edge, so you would expect them to have to move soon. For RJ, it's a big old split, and one of the players just been knocked all the way against the white, all against the blue. The white does not favor them. In fact, the white only favors one team. I'm hearing G-Core somewhere in the distance ringing aloud.
So with this, FaZe has so much control to work around. There's a couple of little dips, rocks that they can make use of. But now it's just going to be trying to gatekeep teams out, maybe try to force them to fight each other, depending on how these teams move. There's a lot of them back over towards the east. You can see Vendetta, Ghost looking back on that angle. Jester still spread out back down across the south, but there's not a lot of good places to play around inside of the circle. So a lot of these teams could be vying for that spot that they think could win them the game based off of how do we fight FaZe's position, and that's going to force them right next to each other. Ghost trying to get some shots back over towards Vendetta, does get one of them down. McCoy jumps away from the grenade, still just bouncing around through them. Look at this. This is very brave, just walking through where the grenade lines are falling, trying to get that better spot. Critical motion, moving over towards the rock, trying to see if maybe that high ground might buy him a little bit more sightline towards somebody's head. But McCoy playing this very aggressive, has to be cautious. Rascal Jester is wanting to be a part of this. McCoy does duck back behind the tree. Drassel's back behind him, trying to get into a position to provide a little bit more cover, but critical motion has such a beautiful angle here.
All these shots, though, are giving away position, and I'm seeing Moshamaru slowly creep up this hillside. I actually like the aggression here from Ghost Gaming. Just get stuck in what have you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose.
8 kills in 4th place. So with this, grenades coming out. Critical motion now in some trouble. Shot's gonna come out, and now it's gonna be a lot of damage going through. Ghost gets dropped off of that very, very quickly, and Vendetta takes a lot of damage as well as they get eliminated off this. So FaZe Clan now looking back over towards Rascal Jester. We saw Shinobi have a hell of an end game, not last game, but can he pull off the chance to do more damage to one of these teams? Because there's just the two of them looking back up against a full 4-man FaZe.
Not a single knock across this in rostered so far. It's going to be a clean win if they do get it. They're going to go for the 4-man sweep. 2 left back, 2 on the forward, split side by side, watching for the snakes. But with how open this area is, there's a couple of rocks and trees you can play off of, but apart from that, it is just barren. It's open field.
7 kills in FaZe, walking away with an early game victory could be a big moral blow to a lot of these teams. New circle pops, no surprise at this point, going to favor FaZe. They're running a beautiful split across this, just trying to get as much control as possible. Rascal Jester has to find some way to approach this, and there's not a lot of clean sight lines to really play around, so they're opting to move back along those hillsides. That's going to be Shinobi getting spotted out. Damage coming through. He gets dropped. Now it is down to just one. A long throw comes out, trying to connect with that. Rishmaru does manage to get one of them down, but that's just a spin back over from FaZe, and so our round 2 winner is going to be FaZe Clan.
That's a lot of points for FaZe Clan. That's a win as well. I mean, all you are doing is feeding the beast, feeding the engine, giving them the frags, giving them the points, and of course giving them the win. It was fairly straightforward for them. There's no doubt in saying that whatsoever. Regardless of where the circle was, they had the good compound, and it was just slow, it was clean, it was methodical. Removing teams from power play positions and just moving in. Clean sweep. To be fair, Mashin, there's nothing else really can be said about it.
Towards the beginning, they got circle favor, but then it started to, the harder part of the game, whenever you have to make the moves and you don't know where everybody's at, they still played great. They figured out how to push in. They were forcing teams to fight against each other due to the control they had of that position. And then late game, it was just circle favor because they controlled the entirety of the circle. So great performance coming up from FaZe inside that game. It was just clinical to watch.
Pretty good from Rascal Jester. Well, it was a Japanese team. I mean, they were, what, 6 coming into that? So another second place. We talked about consistency and good points high up. For them, it's going to do wonderful things on the leaderboard, to be fair.
And another great game coming out from Ghost. But our analysts are going to break down everything that they saw inside that last round. So, Claris, take it away.
Thank you very much. It wouldn't be FaZe up without a circle going north for that one as they throw up that little F thing that I can't do with my hand because I'm rubbish at doing that. But there you go. There is their win for them to start off the day. 9 kills as well coming in. Toffees, big game for them.
I mean, big 2 games, pretty much, I think, getting themselves almost to solidified to move to the next stage. And I don't want to say it was an easy win, but it felt like a walk in the park for FaZe.
They had an extremely long rotation.
Oh my
they
gosh.
got